Okay, so in this video we are actually going to talk about classes and structs. In Swift, classes and structs, and also in a lot of other programming languages, are actually used to store information that can be changed, that can be adapted, and information that actually doesn't change very often. So, for example, we have like a Pokemon, right? Everybody loves Pokemon. And we have Pikachu. And what is Pikachu? So Pikachu is a Pokemon. It's an electric type. It's a mouse. It's like, how do they call it again in the Pokemon series? I think it was a mouse, right? And it has 4 attacks. Yes. So let's put this into writing. Let's put this into a class. So what we can do class Pokemon. And we're gonna open it up with curly braces. So the first one is gonna be ID, and this is gonna be UUID. And we're gonna give this a question mark because it's an optional. The second one is name, and this is gonna be a string. And second one for name, then we're gonna give it a type. This is also a string, and we're gonna give this a var, and let's name type. Let's give this sort, maybe. No, kind. Let's give this something else. So if ID, name type, and you know what? Let's say attacks, and the attacks is gonna be int. Okay, so this is a class. So a class is actually a set of information together that defines, in this case, a Pokemon. So, and now it's here, it's screaming at us because we don't have an initializer. So how we do this? We're gonna call init. In here, we don't need to use the ID. We're just gonna call name is string, comma. Then we have name is string, comma, type is string, and last but not least is attacks. Yes, int. And in here we're gonna call self dot name is equal to name. Self dot, oh, we have name 2 times, sorry, gonna delete this one. And then self dot type is equal to type, and self dot attacks is equal to attacks. Okay, so what we have here, when we initialize a class, we put all the information on top here what we want to initialize, and by self dot we actually connect the initializer to the variables on top here. So let's say we want to create a Pokemon, right? So what we can do, var, let's say Bulbasaur, because that's the first one, is equal to Pokemon name, type, and attack. So the name is Bulbasaur, type is grass, and attacks is 4. Instead of calling this Bulbasaur, let's call this starter Pokemon. Okay, so it's we have to change the last string. This is going to be 4, no string, but it's going to be an int. Okay, so let's say we want to print starter Pokemon, and let's run this. So as you can see, starter Pokemon, it still sends Pokemon because that's the class, but when we click starter Pokemon dot name, then we're going to call starter Pokemon dot type starter Pokemon dot attacks. Let's run this, and as you can see now we can actually get information back. So Bulbasaur, grass, and he has 4 attacks. So let's make this a little bit more user friendly. Oh, Okay, so the first Pokemon's name is, then we're gonna cut this one, and then here we're gonna use some string interpolation like we did before, and we're gonna paste starter Pokemon.name in there. So we're gonna cut this one as well. And we're also gonna do print, and this Pokemon type is gonna do the same here. Hey, in here, starter Pokemon dot type. Oh, wait a second, I forgot. Why isn't this working? Starter Pokemon dot type, and last but not least, print. This Pokemon has interpolation. Then we're gonna call here starter Pokemon dot attacks, and after that we're gonna write attacks, and we're gonna delete this one. Save this. So, and as you can see in here, it actually prints out. So the first Pokemon's name is Bulbasaur. This Pokemon type is grass, and this Pokemon has 4 attacks. So what we can do, we can create a second variable, and we're gonna call this second starter Pokemon. So this is gonna be Pokemon. Oh, Pokemon. And the name is, if I'm not mistaken, is Charmander. Type is fire, and the last one is also 4 attacks. So, and oh, sorry, we don't need a string here, we need an int here. So when we print this out, and let's call second starter Pokemon dot name. Let's run this. Charmander. So theoretically, we could also print out ID. Let's run this. Is nil. So because we didn't add an ID, it's gonna be nil. But what we can do in name, as you can see, we use UUID at this moment, but we don't need that one. So let's say we're gonna call int. Pretty cool. What we can do in here, before name, we're gonna call ID is 001, comma, and what's wrong? Oh, sorry, we didn't initialize it, so let's initialize ID here as well. ID is int, question mark, and above here, self.id is equal to ID. Okay, so theoretically this should work now, and because here we are still missing a thingy, so this is going to be 004, this one is going to be ID, and this is going to be 001, comma, let's run this again, and now as you can see, we actually see the 4 over here. So ID is 4 of the Charmander. So another way of to store information is a struct. So a struct is normally used when you want to update some information, right? Or it's some separate information and you want to update it later. This way you don't need to call the whole struct. You can just call you don't have to call the whole class, but you actually call the struct. So for example, we write a struct, and we're gonna call this change Pokemon. Okay, and what we'll do to change? Well, the ID is the same, name is going to be the same, type is going to be the same, but attacks, we can change attacks, right? So we're going to do var attacks is equal to. So what we can do, we're going to call var change is equal to change Pokemon. Perfect. And under here, we want to change the information of the first Pokemon. So we're going to call starter Pokemon is equal to Pokemon. And the ID is going to be still 001. Name is going to be Bulbasaur. We don't need the E there. The string is, the type is going to be grass. And the attacks, instead of writing 4, we can actually change it. So we're going to call change.attacks. And when we print the starter Pokemon.attacks, let's test this out. Now it is 2. So classes are actually used to create a model, right? So let's say in this case we created a model of Pokemon. We used the model of Pokemon to create a starter Pokemon. We gave it an ID, name, type, and attacks. When you work with structs, and in structs we also store like sometimes the same information as we store in a class, but information that we store in structs is actually information that we can't change, or stuff that we want to update after a while. And that's a little bit the big difference between a class and a struct. A class is normally used for static information, so information that we don't change very often. And when we want to change the information, we don't call the class, but we call a struct to change the information of the class. It sounds really difficult. It sounds really weird, but this is a little bit how it works. You can also use structs for saving other information. If you want to, if you don't want to create a class, or we don't need to create a class, you can also store the information in a struct. It all depends a little bit on what your use cases are. So this is a little bit like the end of the video. I hope you understand a little bit the difference between a class and the difference with a struct, that you understand what classes are used for, what structs are used for. If it happens that you have a question or if you don't understand it, make sure to check out the written tutorial on my website as well if you want some more information. Or otherwise, please come to the Discord server, ask me questions, and I will be there to answer them. So, in the next video we are going to talk about control flow, and with control flow we actually talk about looping, so for loops, while loops, and so on. So let's go to the next video and let's see what we can learn there.